Well, a decision on Dr. Nandipha Magadumana's urgent bid to challenge the legality of her deportation from Tanzania will be delivered on Monday. She's accused of helping convicted rapist and murderer Thabo Bester to fake his death in a prison fire at the Mangaung Correctional Center in May last year. They were arrested in Arusha shortly after they emerged that Bester was in fact alive. A lawyer for the Home Affairs Department has today questioned why Magadumana has not challenged the conduct of the Tanzanian government.
It is important to start off by saying that the applicant and Bester was arrested by Tanzanian authorities and declared by them as being prohibited immigrants liable for deportation back to South Africa. Now that cannot be disputed. And the reason why it cannot be disputed is because the applicant never made out a case that she was arrested by Tanzanian officials. Her case is it was the South African police force.
Magadumana's legal representative, Advocate Anton Katz, has argued that the facts point to an extradition and not a deportation, as government is claiming.
And then he said extradition involves basically three elements. Acts of sovereignty on the part of two states. Two states, we emphasize two states. A request by one to another state for the delivery and the delivery of the person concerned for trial or sentence in the territory of the requesting state. And then that's extradition. Three elements. Then it tells you, the court tells the world, deportation is essentially a unilateral act of the deporting state in order to get rid of an undesired alien. The purpose of deportation is achieved when such alien leaves the deporting state's territory. Importantly, my lord, the destination of the deportee is irrelevant for the purpose of deportation. The facts here demonstrate clearly, on any version, this was extradition. That's it. That's our case. I could actually sit down now, but I'll need to drill down to the facts.
Let's get the view on the case now of legal analyst Modidima Mannya, who's joining us on News at Prime. A very good evening to you. So grateful for your time, as always. So an extradition masked as deportation is what Magadumana's legal team has argued in the High Court in Bloemfontein today. Have they put forward a solid case for that?
Good evening, Tembekile, and to your viewers. Look, I must say I found that type of argument a bit strange. An extradition follows a particular process which involves a specific request based on an extradition agreement or treaty between the two countries. I think what the state has correctly argued is that the actions and the decisions of the Tanzanian government are not in issue and in dispute in this matter, and that is actually the source of the issue. In terms of Tanzanian law, as I said before, if you are in Tanzania and you are arrested and you are found, for instance, to have been convicted in your own country or to be a fugitive from your own country, you are eligible for deportation. And the minister responsible simply makes a decision upon being furnished with information, then you get deported. So it's actually a unilateral act, as Magadumana's lawyer is saying. Now, the fact that there are administrative technicalities that involve the South African officials going there does not substitute the authority of the Tanzanian government, does not make the South African government a partner in the decisions that are made. So I don't necessarily think that anything turns much on that. I think it's a false start of an argument.
And the suggestion today by the state that perhaps, by government I should say, that it is surprising that Magadumana is not taking any action against Tanzanian officials because by the South African government's version, it was in fact Tanzanian officials who apprehended Magadumana and Bester in Arusha. How much is likely to turn on that, and how could that swing things when the court has to make its determination?
Well, for me, that's actually the heart of this whole case, because, you know, if you recall, there was initially a suggestion that this was an abduction, But in fact, as we understand the facts, is that the Tanzanian police arrested him, and I think a day or two later, the South African officials then flew to Tanzania. Now, I cannot imagine a Tanzanian police official coming to South Africa, regardless of whatever agreement or arrangement, coming here to arrest somebody, take this person out of the country while the South African government is watching. I think what we are seeing here is a confusion of what our constitutional and legal framework is and what the constitution and the legal framework in other parts of the country are. So people think that because in South Africa everything is secured as a full right or half a right, then is the case with everywhere else. It doesn't work that way. The Tanzanian law is very clear. In fact, I would find it very strange to even suggest that South Africa had a say. I think, from what I understand, the Tanzanians were taking all the decisions, except that the South Africans would have provided the necessary resources that were needed for the execution of the deportation.
Mm-hmm. And let's say Magadumana is able to prove her case in this instance. Would she be able to leave the country, I wonder, even if the judge had said, yes, what you suffered or experienced was an extradition disguised as a deportation? What would be the immediate implications, the potential remedies?
Well, I would have expected if somebody says, look, I've been removed from Tanzania illegally, I would expect this person to say to the court, if you find that I've been illegally removed from Tanzania must be taken back, the status quo ante must be restored. That's usually the kind of relief that you get. Now, assuming that they have a case, and Dr. Magadumana is released from custody, does it then mean she's in the country illegally? And does it mean she can't be arrested afresh? So to some extent, even if they succeed, this might just be theoretical. It might not take her anywhere.
And the issue of fake passports, the identity that she used or did not use to gain entry into Tanzania, does it matter who she was when her passport was stamped at the border or at the port of entry?
Yes, look, this is the point I made, that the Tanzanians had two options. They could have prosecuted her for being in the country illegally and thereafter deport her still. And they opted to deport her. She has to account how she left South Africa. My understanding is that her passport was not stamped out of South Africa. Of course, she committed an offense in Tanzania. Tanzania must deal with that. But the charges, the offenses for which she has been arrested relate to South African issues. That is what the South African courts can deal with.
And how might the High Court be able to balance her rights as an accused person and the broader interest of justice, because she is currently charged in relation to a very serious case, allegedly assisted a convicted rapist and murderer to break out of prison. There are claims that the two of them and the broader group, in fact, in this case, then sought a decoy, the body of another dead man, placed it in the cell. There's also been talk about other bodies that were violated in this process.
Well, maybe we must distinguish between the two things. The one issue, which is what she's fighting off, is the process of bringing her back to South Africa. I did not understand the argument to be about the fact that she can actually, under normal circumstances, be arrested and charged. The fact of the matter is that at the time that she was brought back here, she was a fugitive from justice. And I think the point I'm making is, I'm asking the question, is she saying, take me back to Tanzania because you abducted me or you brought me back here illegally? Or is she saying, release me, then arrest me afresh? Because, as I say, that may just be. The charges against her are very serious. They are not actually in dispute. I think the fact that a person has been unlawfully arrested means for that particular prosecution, the state cannot prosecute you. But I don't necessarily understand that to be an indemnity from permanent prosecution. She will still be arrested and charged.
Was it lawful, though, in the process, whatever it was, for her to have been blindfolded, as she claims to have happened? Does that indicate any abuse, any violation of her rights?
Look, when you deal with people who are fugitives, you always take precautionary measures. It's as good as you asking me, is it proper to handcuff or chain a person who has got the potential to escape. Remember, when they were arrested, they had escaped here. They still constitute probably a risk, a flight risk. And I think that's why she probably abandoned the bail application, because that was going to be a big issue around whether she's not a flight risk. So I don't necessarily think that she was, I didn't understand that she was blindfolded from Tanzania to here.
Modidima Mannya, legal analyst, good to speak to you, sir, as always.